where the money flows in this world decides the direction of humanity, whether we like it or not. So the people with the most money truly do control the world. And I don't just mean billionaires. There are entities with way more money than Donald Trump or Elon Musk, and they truly have the world's steering wheel, or rudder, depending on what form of locomotion you're most familiar with. Or if you're doing the locomotion, then I guess it would be your hips. Those ass clowns have the hips. That's an uncomfortable image on Jamie Dimon. Anyway, the answer as to who controls most of the world is the top asset management firms, aka shadow banks. And they have unimaginable wealth. The top 5 asset management firms are BlackRock with $10 trillion, trillion with a T, as in holy tits, that's a lot of money. Next, Vanguard with $9.3 trillion, UBS with $5.7 trillion, Fidelity $4.9 trillion, State Street $4.7 trillion, and my cousin Nathan with $250. He's just getting started. I probably should have left him off the list, but I owe him because he scored me some Molly so I could get through my kid's parent-teacher conference. Anyway, try to imagine how much money $1 trillion is. If you spent $100,000 a year, in order to spend $1 trillion, you would have to keep doing that for 10 million years. If you spent $100,000 a day, so you're either Kim Kardashian or a lunatic. If you spent $100,000 a day in order to spend $1 trillion, it would take you 27,000 years, which is older than Larry Ellison's original head before he got the prosthetic one. The people who run these funds are the true dominant rulers of much of the world. And they're talked about in the media less than a Native American protesting the petrodollar. So while these shadow banks sit on trillions, what about everyone else? 1 in 3 people on our planet suffer malnutrition. Each year, poor nutrition kills 3.1 million children under the age of 5. 3 million kids killed by greed. Here's another one. The number 1 killer of humans around the world is unclean water, because people can't afford to get clean water. New estimates on how much it would cost to give the world safe, clean water are about $114 billion per year. BlackRock alone could do that 88 times over, meaning they could do it and then do it again and do it and do it and do it and do it and do it. And then after saving millions of people, they'd still have $9 trillion left over. Some pocket change in case they wanted to impulse buy something like Venus. So these shadow banks have this soul-melting, swamp-bile level of wealth, and where they invest it decides the course of humankind, because those are the industries with the resources to eat up everything else faster than The View eats brain cells or Zuckerberg eats our culture. And where do you think they invest that money? Do you think they invest in, the struggling single mom's knitting class? Or maybe a vegan bowling league for Down syndrome children? Or perhaps a company that distributes hugs in the favelas of Brazil? No, it turns out that's not it. For example, we are in the midst of a climate crisis. Not sure if you've heard. A recent study found that if we stay on this course, in 100 years, we might not have clouds. But not to worry, at that point, we won't have humans to care. So that's good. And here are the top shareholders of ExxonMobil: Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock, and Fidelity. And here are the top shareholders of Chevron: Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. The top shareholders of BP: Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. Shell Oil's top shareholders: Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, and Fidelity. You get the point? The people running this world are investing in our death. It's like we're in an out-of-control car and they're investing in a guy who cuts seatbelts. That was the first job I ever had. In hindsight, I shouldn't have offered to do it pro bono. But how about something else that has killed millions of people? Big tobacco. As you know, Big Tobacco spent a generation denying cigarettes were harmful and convincing young people that smoking was cooler than having racing stripes shaved into your eyebrow. So who are the biggest backers of Philip Morris? Vanguard and BlackRock. And if they just had $1 for every person they killed with lung cancer. Oh, they do. Lucky them. I bet they can afford the exit row on airplanes. Here's another. Major plastics companies. Plastics are one of the most harmful forms of pollution around the globe. Humans use 1 million plastic bottles a minute, every minute of every day. Plastics are filling our oceans, they're in our food, they're in our blood. I shat out a fully formed Pepsi bottle the other day, and I don't drink Pepsi. If billions of dollars was invested in replacements to plastics, like the ones made out of mushrooms, not the fun type of mushrooms, if they invested in that, that's where the entire industry would go. But if billions are invested in plastics, humans are not going to use fewer plastics. Which way do you think the trillion-dollar parasites are headed? Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street are the top shareholders of the major plastic companies like Dow Chemical. And I feel like Dow Chemical has done some other things that are less savory than eating a pizza sat on by a nude Boris Johnson. But who's counting? Let's move on to war. One of the reasons the U.S. needs endless war is because the big weapons contractors have to keep making money for their investors. And who do you think are the biggest shareholders of the biggest weapons companies in the world? It's actually Billie Eilish. I know, curveball, right? Oh, wait, sorry. I read that wrong. Biggest shareholders of Raytheon, Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock. Biggest shareholders of Lockheed Martin, Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock. Same for General Dynamics, same for Boeing. You get the picture. If you're looking for someone to kill children, Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock are pumping billions into their coffers so they can do it more effectively. Let's do one more industry, and then we can give up. The propaganda networks that tell us all of this is fine, that tell us this is how the world should work. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, etc. Other than the Murdoch family, the biggest shareholders in Fox News are Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. CNN is owned by Warner Brothers. Their top shareholders, Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. NBC and MSNBC are now owned by Comcast. Biggest shareholders, did you guess it? Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. Okay, I'll stop showing you every chart, but Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street are also the biggest shareholders in big pharma, private prisons and policing, deforestation, dystopian surveillance software, AI, the big car companies, big ag, big banks, big chemicals, Amazon, Google, Walmart, Uber, anything you can think of. And literally, anything. Go ahead, think of something. Just whatever pops into your mind. Okay, you got it? The top shareholders are BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. But seriously, stop thinking about a butt plug shaped like Emmanuel Macron. That's just weird. Like you're making this show weird. Okay? I feel like I'm doing enough of that on my own. Well, hold on. I guess I was exaggerating. There are things that the mega shadow bank douche squad don't invest in. Anything, and I mean anything, that isn't meant to make a lot of money or gain power. So this means things like reforestation, cleaning up the oceans, fighting against the polluters, fighting against the pro-war psychopaths, saving the lives of anyone, defending the rights of the most oppressed, etc., etc. BlackRock would sooner use their $10 trillion to buy the entire global supply of Cadbury eggs and just hand them out for free to the world's children than invest in things to help people and planet. We are just pawns to be exploited. And the head of BlackRock is Larry Fink. His last name in the dictionary literally means contemptible and thoroughly unattractive person. What more evidence do you need? I assume the head of Vanguard is named Timothy Quit. William I. Robinson at UC Santa Barbara said, 500 years of capitalism has led to a global epochal shift in which all human activity is transformed into capital. He also professed nation-states become little more than population containment zones, and the real decision-making power lies with those who control global capital. And no one controls more capital in the Western world than the largest shadow banks. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Marco Rubio, Anthony Blinken, all the other clowns, they are just high-level managers of a dirty, corrupt, putrid, rancid system controlled by the titans of capital. It's like a really, really gross system. It's like you know when you're like a toilet backs up and there's like stuff on the floor that could not have come out of a human-shaped person, and you go, What alien creature died and melted and decomposed and fermented in this toilet? That's what this system is. And now you know who owns it.